So, welcome to week 3 of our journey into the lymphatic system. So, in week 1, we really focused on this idea that the lymphatic system is connective tissue and binds everything together in your body, essentially. We talked about sort of the fluid dynamics of creating negative pressure at the center so that fluid can drain in from the periphery. That's when we started sort of the journey of, what are the sections and in what order do you work with the lymphatic system. And then last week we continued that journey into our lymphatics from a slightly different perspective, and this week we will really focus on the nourishing function of this system. So the really amazing thing about the lymphatic system that a lot of people don't appreciate, and I certainly didn't until I learned about it, so it was not intuitive at all, is its role in transporting fatty acids that come from your food that are too large to be to move directly into the bloodstream, as well as fat-soluble vitamins. So if your lymphatic system, for whatever reason, is disrupted, say you have a chain of lymph nodes removed or whatever, it also interferes with this delivery process of fatty acids and of fat-soluble vitamins. What are fat-soluble vitamins? They're vitamins D, E, K, and A. And so if you've come to the support group in the past, we often talk about vitamin K and its really big role in bone health, for example. Vitamin A has all kinds of functions, but one of them is skin health. Vitamin D is crucial to so many aspects of our functioning, including immunity. So these are very, very important vitamins, and your lymphatic system plays a large role in their delivery into the bloodstream, and then from the bloodstream into every cell into your body. So the lymphatic system does way more than manage waste or support immunity, which of course it does. That has been a strong focus of our work too together, right? To really think about, all those macrophages and T cells and B cells in the lymph nodes, cleansing that fluid or alerting your overall system that a more intense immune response is needed. So today we're going to lean in on this idea that the lymphatic fluid or the lymphatic system is also a system of nourishment. So that's our background theme for today. So from that little introduction, I invite you to find your position for your opening centering. You could be seated as always, or you could sit on a chair with a back, though you probably wouldn't use the back to lean in. You could lie down on the ground. If you do lie down on the ground, make sure you give yourself supports that help your spine feel okay, your low back feel okay, that allow your body to relax and release. So maybe a lift under the knees. You see this on the screen, beautifully exemplified. Maybe a little bit of a blanket under the head, reaching all the way down to the shoulder blades. And if you're seated, by now you know, if you're on the ground, a lift under the sits bones so that you lift your seat a little bit higher so that the knees are lower than the tops of the hips. And that you can invite your spine to find its natural curves, and that you can maybe imagine as if you had like a gentle golden string that rises up and tugs you to sit nice and upright and to feel your expansiveness in your body. And so as you make these decisions about how you would like to sit, also ponder how you might like to place your eyelids, whether you'd like to have the eyes open or closed, or maybe at half mast, somewhere in between with a soft gaze ahead of you. Generally speaking, it's nice not to have like a laser beam through your eyes, but if the eyes are open, to keep them soft and to keep the gaze very gentle. And then perhaps also ponder how you place your hands, in the sense that the placement of the hands might interact with how you communicate with your nervous system. Where palms down might feel a bit more settling and grounding. Palms up, a little bit more about inviting inspiration, new learning. Palms at the heart might invite introspection. And from that settling in, I invite you to arrive in this moment, in this space, and in this community. And perhaps you begin, as we usually do, with a gentle journey inward into your body, into becoming very aware, very attuned to the sensations from within and without. How do you experience your body on the inside? How do you experience your body on the outside? Does your body feel nourished and taken care of? Does your body have any particular needs in this moment? Gently journey inward with a curious mind and an open heart. You will not create any sensation or experience that wasn't already there. Even if something unexpected comes into your awareness or becomes the focus of your attention, it's not that you created that by paying attention. It's simply that you are now noticing what was already there. And how beautiful is that? Even if that's challenging, isn't it good to know what is present in your body? To know where it feels nourished, where it feels lacking, where it feels challenged. Can you give yourself permission to embrace your body in its totality, in its difficulty, in its ease, even in its neediness? And can you perhaps nourish your body in this moment with a deep compassion that you invite to flow through your entire physical being? Nourishing yourself very deliberately in this moment, not with food, but with compassion, with love, with kindness, with a deep appreciative joy for however your body is showing up in this moment. It is here. It brought you here. And as you appreciate your body in this way, perhaps begin to notice how your energy is echoing through your body. Breath and body are, of course, intimately connected. We go through them sequentially, but that's just an artifact of language. And so as you continue to stay very attuned to your body, how is energy manifesting here? Does your energy, your vitality show up in a way that is nourished? Or in the opposite way, lacking? How may your vitality or energy be expressed in your breath and in how your breath is moving through your body? Is there a vibrancy, a pulsation that's palpable? Or is there more of a gentle notion that there is breath, but it's not very accessible? Notice for yourself how your energy is unfolding and how it is pulsing with your body. Meeting your vitality with the same compassion, the same open mind and open heart with which you are meeting your body. Perhaps nourishing your own vitality, your own energy, through giving it loving kindness, compassion, a deep caring, a deep appreciation. Your breath moves through you from the moment you're born to the moment you die. And for most of those moments, it is reliable. And even when it isn't, there is still vitality, there is still energy. And gently become aware of the thoughts, the emotions, the feelings, the stories you are bringing with you this morning, and how they too interact with breath and body. How they too are part of this greater whole, this connected being that you are. And how they too can either be a bit depleted or nourished. How they too can either contribute to your flourishing and your healing, or can take away from it. And so with an open heart and an awakened mind, meet your own thoughts, your own feelings, your own stories in this moment. And notice if there is something that can be done to nourish your thoughts, to bring compassion to the challenging ones, to bring loving kindness to feelings that are difficult, to appreciate that every thought, every story, every feeling has meaning, is trying to communicate something. And as you meet your body, your breath, your mind in this way, perhaps also really begin to tune into this deeper inner wisdom, this deeper intelligence, this capacity you have for taking perspective on all of your inner layers, but also your outer connections. Connections to a greater community, a greater web of life, a connection to the capacity to experience joy, to experience gratitude, compassion, loving kindness, to pay attention, and to be with, even when being with is with something that's not always easy. And from this place of exploring your own need for and capacity to nourish or have nourishment, I invite you, if it suits you, to bring your hands to your heart and to bow your head to your heart. So take a moment to see if somewhere from your deeper inner wisdom, from your deeper inner joy, an intention can arise of a quality, a meaning, that you would like to bring to the mat this morning. Not as something to strive for, or as an outcome to seek, but just as a quality to unfold, a meaning to invite. Such an intention arises for you, you might choose to breathe it into your own being in all of your layers with your next breath in. And you might choose to send that intention outward into the greater web of life as an offering of nourishment for your community. And whenever you feel ready to do so, You can release your hands if they were lifted. You can open your eyes if they are closed. You can come to a seat if you are lying down. And you can lift your gaze if it was lowered. And welcome everyone. It's very lovely to see you and to share space this morning. So I invite you at this point to take some very gentle shoulder shrugging, sort of tiny circles. The movement is mostly the shrugging up, and then there's a bit of a roll toward the back plane of the body, a little bit toward the front, but really focus on that shrugging up. And as you do this, bring your fingers into the region of the collarbones. Just let them rest there. And notice the reverberations of this shrugging up of your shoulders, kind of combined with a very, very small circle, the shrugging up being primary, under your fingertips in this region here, where you have so many lymph nodes that are the lymph nodes at the center, that where we want to create the negative pressure so that lymph can ultimately travel in from the periphery. So this is a great way to start, right, with movement. Of course, you could also have started just with a gentle stroking through this region. You can start at the back of the neck, so it's yogi's choice right now, whether you want to shrug or stroke or maybe even tap with the fingers, coming sort of from this outer region of the tops of the shoulders, through that region of the collarbones, toward the heart ultimately. Just recalling that the reason we do this is that fluid, or lymph is a fluid, and fluid travels from high pressure to low pressure. And since we want our lymph to travel to the heart, we try to create low pressure around this region here of this large collection of lymph nodes to do that, so that then lymph from other regions of the body will just naturally be drawn toward this low pressure in the body. And by now you are very well aware of this, and so I won't belabor this too much, but I do invite you to just continue to work a little bit here, very deliberately, doing this in your own way. You could do this with movement. You can continue to make shoulder shrugs or tiny shoulder circles. You could even have some chicken wings here and make small circles if movement is what you're craving more so than touch right now. And as you make this decision for yourself, you begin to realize that as you learn the principles of how the lymphatic system works, you can create your own practice. You don't really need anyone else, as long as you understand, I start here. I start at the collarbones. And then you can begin to move up into the neck region. You can do this with your Spock fingers of gently stroking down from in front of the ears and behind the ears, maybe even from the back of the neck. But you can also do this by beginning to move the neck a little bit through its range of motion. So you might, for example, tuck your chin down, draw the head back, and then turn the head as you exhale, perhaps to the right, back to center with the inhale, to the left with the next exhale, just pivoting the head side to side from this aligned position, right? From this chin tuck and this drawing of the ears toward the back plane of the body. If you would like, you can continue moving side to side, really nourishing the tissue in this region of the body. And you could, along the way, if you have the wherewithal to do it, it may be hard, continue to stroke as you move, so you can combine things. You could even hold the head steady on one side and maybe bring the opposite hand and stroke to the side away from the turn, combining a bit of active rotation in the neck with gentle stroking. Draw drawing lymphatic fluid very gently through those little capillaries and then into the lymphatic vessels, toward the lymph nodes that are behind your ears, through your neck, and all the way down to the collarbones. And if you did this on one side in a stationary way, as I'm showing, again, you can do your own thing here, then you would repeat this on the other side. And then if you would like, you can also bring movement into this neck region by bringing the ear toward the sky. So you might choose to look up to the left with your eyes and then draw the left ear straight up toward the sky. The right ear will descend toward the shoulder, but the movement is toward the sky with the left. Perhaps exhaling up and then inhaling, bringing the head upright, and then exhaling, dropping the head to the other side, looking up to the right, drawing the right ear toward the ceiling to bring some lateral flexion into the neck. And here too you have choices. You can move side to side with the breath flowing very slowly, not quickly. Or you can rest and stroke, either with the hand on the same side or with the hand on the opposite. I tend to like the opposite hand, but you may have your own preference, or you could even work on both sides if that feels okay to you. And then occasionally switching sides, always coming from this aligned position of the tucked chin, ears drawing to the back plane of the body, and then coming to the other side, looking up, drawing the ear up, and perhaps combining the movement with gentle tapping or stroking or whatever feels good for you. And when you've enjoyed enough of this, when you feel you've nourished those tissues, imagine that you have a paintbrush on your nose and draw circles with your nose. So you're not making circles with the head to the back, you are circling so that a canvas right in front of you, you're drawing a circle on it. So it's a different kind of neck movement than neck circles in the traditional sense, which are actually not healthy for your neck at all. Circling to the back of the body and your neck is not helpful because it can compress nerves and arteries and veins in the back of the neck. So when you make neck circles in the yoga world, this is how you do it. And then at some point, change direction and draw your circle with your nose in the other direction. Many years ago, this is like a stupid story, but many years ago there was an elephant at the zoo in Anchorage, and they taught it to hold a paintbrush in its trunk, and this is what it would do, right? It would use its trunk in this way to actually make drawings, like literal drawings. I think they even sold them. So you could think about being like that elephant, drawing with your nose here. A couple more times. And then just notice if you maybe want a couple more turns of the head to the right or left, or maybe a couple more lateral movements. Just moving very gently, deciding whether you'd also like to stroke or tap as you are continuing to clear this sort of central portion. And then I invite you to bring your hands together in front of your heart and to reach your arms up toward the sky and then out to the side and back in. I have to move a little bit, I'm hitting my chair here. It's like a breaststroke if you're a swimmer. And for you, your range of motion may be different than mine. Maybe your arms go forward more and come back. So whatever feels good for you. But what are we working now? You guessed it. Now we're starting to clear that axillary region, right? That's so often affected by surgery that maybe has removed some lymph nodes, or by radiation that was focused on this region and has perhaps also interfered with sort of the health of your lymphatic vessels here. And so what we're doing is we're nourishing the tissue around that region. And we are, of course, moving lymph through those vessels. The beauty of this breaststroke here, like fish out of water, is that you are also helping by lifting the arms up a bit. So there's a moment where the fluid really does get to drain in line with gravity. It just makes things easier. It's not necessary. You know by now that your lymphatic vessels have little backflow valves. So once you set lymphatic fluid in motion, it always drains toward the heart. And we've cleared the path for it. If you started draining from the hands and all the pathway to the heart was blocked, nothing would happen. Even if you're making the most beautiful hand motions, if the channels are clogged, the fluid can't go anywhere. If you can stand it, do a few more of those. Even if you get a little bit out of breath, that's not a bad thing. One of the best ways that lymphatic capillaries regrow is through cardiovascular exercise. So getting a little out of breath, working a little hard, taking a nice fast walk, that can really help regenerate lymphatic capillaries. And then at some point, you might decide to take a few more chicken wings, this time with less focus on this clearing at the center, though that will automatically happen, right, with this movement. But this time really think more about the muscles and the fascia and the ligaments and the tendons that are moving around the shoulder region, the axillary region, the armpit region. There's a lot of movement now of lymph from the side of the body, from the arms, through those axillary nodes. And then you could get creative and give the brain a little bit of a workout by alternating sides. Your brain loves these little challenges of sort of unusual movements. If you wanted to add even more to that, you could see if you can now draw a circle with your nose, just like the elephant in the Anchorage Zoo, as you are also rotating your arms. And you might notice that, wow, that is actually really, really difficult. But think about all of the muscles and fascia that are now exerting a little bit of pressure on those lymphatic vessels that, of course, don't have a pump other than your muscular action. At some point, just change directions for a brief moment. We won't go into the forward direction as long. And then begin to come to stillness, keeping your chicken wings, and then open and close through the elbow. We have cleared around the clavicles. We have cleared the pathways in the neck. We have cleared the pathways through the axillary region. Now we can invite some flow of fluid from the extremities of your arms. So right now we're pumping a little bit through the elbows. You could, of course, also, if this is too much movement, stop the movement and just rub through the elbows. I'm lifting my arm. You don't have to. You have backflow valves. You could rest your arm and stroke through the elbow. So if that feels better for you right now, that's an option for you. Again, the beauty is that as you learn these principles, you can adapt this practice to whatever feels good for you in this moment. You can use movement. You can use gentle stroking. And remember that the nodes are around the regions of the joints. Well, they're everywhere, but they cluster around the regions of the large joints. So that the lymphatic vessels that are leading to those nodes are squeezed and pulsed by the action of the muscles around the joints and the fascia that have to move to create movement in the joints. Maybe you circle your wrists now that you've cleared the section through the elbows. This is one of my favorites. This one works really well if you don't think about it. As soon as you think about how to do it, boy, it's impossible. Change directions a few times. And just notice how much movement this creates. You could add even more movement by doing this in different orientations in space. You could even bring your arms behind you and turn your wrists behind you. Do you see how much fun this can be? You can be so creative. It's like there's nothing prescribed here. All we're doing is very creatively and joyfully nourishing the flow of lymph, distributing those vitamins, those fat-soluble vitamins, those fatty acids from the food that are too big to be absorbed otherwise. Now we're moving into the hands, so maybe making some waves with the hands. You could combine that if you have the need for more movement, with elbow movement, with shoulder movement. Again, be your own boss here and figure out how to do this. You could press through the hands. I'm just trying to show you a whole lot of options today for what you can do. You can stroke the fingers, right? You can work like this as well with your own hands. We've done this before too. So there are all these beautiful, beautiful options. You get to regulate. You want more movement, less stroking, more stroking, less movement. You want to have a combination of it all. How do you want this to unfold? And then to sort of top it off, maybe take a couple more rounds, or maybe a few more rounds than that, of breast strokes. But this time, really think about also bringing movement into the wrists and into the fingers. And then the next time that your hands are toward the top, so your own range of motion, they could be here, they could be here, wherever they are, gently interlace your fingers, press the palms up. So it could be here, it could be here, it could be here, it doesn't really matter. And just slightly move side to side. So we're still bringing a lot of movement into the areas we've already worked. But as you can tell now, we're also adding movement around the waist region. And by now you remember that we have a large collection of nodes in the abdomen. And we also have that little reservoir for lymph that drains from the lower regions of the body, the cisterna, chyli. So you have both lots of lymph nodes in the abdomen, and you have this little cistern that holds lymph node on the way, sort of a little storage cistern on the way from outer regions of the body toward the thoracic duct, and from there toward the heart. And so with this little side-to-side movement, we are continuing the upper flow, and we are beginning to really sense into that region. So you could let go of your arms now, and maybe bring your hands to your belly for a moment. Maybe the thumbs are toward the bottom of the ribs, and the little fingers are below the belly button, and maybe your middle fingers are right on the belly button. And take just a couple of rounds of natural breath. Like, don't exaggerate it. You could have your arms a little bit by your side. Maybe you even feel the side of your waist or the side of your low ribs with your arms here. And let yourself feel how, when you breathe, your entire waist region, low rib cage included, or low rib basket included, expands outward and upward. And when you exhale, it draws inward and down. I'm not telling anything new. You've heard this before. It bears repeating that this is the movement of your diaphragm. Contracting downward toward the belly with the inhalation, or to create the inhalation, and relaxing upward toward the lungs to support the exhalation. This is to a large degree, the motion that you have, often more than 20,000 times a day, to help support lymphatic flow through the abdomen, bringing lymph to and from the big collection of nodes in the abdomen and through the cisterna chyli, ultimately into the thoracic duct, which is a large lymphatic vessel. And from there into the subclavian vein and into your heart. And now these fat-soluble vitamins, the fatty acids from your food, can come into the bloodstream and be distributed through the cells of your body to nourish those cells with those goodies. If you would like to feel the pulsation of your breath a little bit more, you could add a forceful exhalation. We call this a kapalabhati breath in yoga. It doesn't matter if you remember that or not, but it's very slow. So it's not repeated quickly, which is how you see it often done, but it's just on each exhalation, you blow out some extra air through the nose. I'll show this from the side so you can see. You don't have to do it this forcefully if you don't like this. And what you're doing here is you're also engaging the deep abdominal muscles to contract a little more strongly with the exhale, and that may just create a little more movement in the abdomen. If you get dizzy at all with this, then don't do it. You could also do a bumblebee breath here. Bumblebee breathing is nourishing in so many ways, but it is also nourishing for your lymphatic system, the movement of lymph to the heart. You can stay here and simply play with the breath to move the lymph in this region. Or if you would like, you could begin to take some gentle rotations. And one way that you could do this that still continues to move everything at the top is you can bring your right hand across to your left shoulder, your left hand across. If you want to stand for a while, this would be a good time to stand. Your left hand across the back, and then turn to the left, giving yourself a little bit of a hug, a little bit of a squeeze with your arms, waiting for an inhalation, opening the arms up wide, keeping those upper areas stimulated, and then switching sides, bringing the left hand to the right arm behind you, and turn to the right as you exhale. Let your breath determine the speed of your flow. So if you have a very slow breath, then make this a very slow movement. If you're a faster breather, well, then maybe the movement will get faster. Totally up to you. And if you want to make it really demanding and less coordinated with a full breath, you could begin to swing side to side. And instead of a strong clasp now, you could do this knocking on the doors of life movement that we do so often in our classes. And I'll show this standing so you can see what it looks like. If you're standing, let this move everything. So you're still bringing a lot of motion into the upper nodes, but now you are moving through rotation in the belly region, or really the rib basket region. You might notice that you're naturally starting to bend at the hip joint a little bit, and you're naturally starting to bend at the knees. You may feel your breath speeding up a little bit, so this can become quite cardiovascular. In some yoga traditions, this is done very quickly for 3 minutes. And believe me, you can get out of breath. That can be quite cardio. And that helps, that cardiovascular action helps regrow, literally regrow, the lymphatic capillaries that may have been lost through surgery or radiation or disease. You can slow down, you can stop and do something different. You have lots of options now. If this doesn't suit you this morning, if this is too demanding, too energizing, not nourishing, if it still feels nourishing and exciting and joyful, just keep going for 10 more seconds or so. And then begin to slow it down. Maybe for a couple of rounds, you return to almost this hugging motion in the front and the back of the body. You might even close your eyes for a moment if that suits you, to imagine all this lymphatic fluid draining now from these various regions that we have moved toward the heart. Maybe recalling that everything from sort of mid-body through the sternum, through the half of the head, and down to the right fingertips drains into the right subclavian vein, so drains into the nodes on the right, and everything else in the body drains from the left, ultimately drains to the lymph nodes in the left side of the body. So there's way more movement through the left side of the body where your heart is than through the right, which drains just this much smaller portion of your body. So you could imagine all this activity right now. And then from here, if you are standing, it'd be great to have a chair. If you don't have a chair, you could use a wall. If you're staying seated, I'll show you a variation in a moment. But if you have a chair, have it in front of you, either seat or back, whatever works for you. And then bring your arms up with an inhalation, down with the exhalation. Bring the fingertips into the hip creases where you know you have some lymph nodes. And just use the fingertips as a guide to stick your bum out so that you can come down with the natural curves of your spine to begin to rest the hands on the seat or the back of the chair, whatever suits you. And just take a moment to ponder where there is muscular movement that is moving or that is compressing, gently massaging lymphatic vessels, where there's fascia moving and being compressed to support lymphatic movement. And then very gently bring the left hand directly under your nose and unweight your right hand. And let the right arm dangle back and forth for a moment underneath you. And then wait for an inhalation. And swing your right arm up. The left knee will bend as you open up here. And take this movement with your breath at your own speed. Inhaling to rise. Exhaling to lower. Nourishing so many tissues now. And when I say nourishing, it's that nourishing function of clearing fluid through the fascia, of moving lymph through the vessels, supporting the flow of blood as it distributes nutrients, inviting even the uptake of fluid at the cellular level by both your venous system and your lymphatic system. One more time to the right, and then we'll switch sides. You can take a moment and rest. You could come to standing, or you can switch right away.
read your own body. What is nourishing for you in this moment? There's like a real beauty in tuning in to know, my body wants this or my body wants that. I'm turning my chair so I can face you. You don't have to do that. And then when you're ready to do the other side, bring your right hand right under your nose. Let the left arm dangle. Just for a moment to bring a little bit of movement into that shoulder before you go to the full range. You're bringing blood flow here, you're supporting lymphatic flow. And then when you feel like, okay, everything is nourished now here, that needs to be nourished now with an inhale. Lift all the way up. With the exhale, come down. We will not be synchronized because everyone will move at the rate of their breath, honoring the very natural flow in their own body. So you get to determine how quickly you move here. What feels nourishing, not just for your lymphatic system, for your cellular systems, but even for your mind. We often push ourselves into a rushed sort of movement or attitude. And this is your opportunity to decide, well, by what speed do I want to travel here? What nourishes your energy? And of course, that also means that if the movement's going on for too long, you can take a rest and just breathe. A couple more times to this side if you would like. And then take a moment, take a beat before you just pop up to standing to let your body adjust. Then bring your hands to your low back. And with an inhalation, rise up the way you came down with the natural curves of your spine intact. And settle yourself into this moment. Sense inward, sense into your body for a moment. What experiences, what sensations are present now? Sense into your breath, your vitality. Do you feel more vibrant or less? More nourished or less? That is feedback. That is feedback about whether you may be overdoing if you're feeling less nourished than before. Yoga helps us tune in to read those signals from the inside, because that is our wisdom speaking to us, and we often override that wisdom by striving for a particular outer goal. And so take a moment just to check in and to listen to what your truth actually is. And from that place of having collected ourselves into this moment, we will take our last few movements, and you could use your chair here. I'll show it with my little fake chair. But you could also do this just from standing. But if you have a chair and it feels okay, you could always bring it close to a wall so that you can have your hand at the wall. Step your right foot onto the chair. Yeah, beautiful. And then let yourself just lean forward a bit and come back. Lean forward and come back. gentler movements now in the lower body as we're moving toward the end of class, and yet still very effective movements. You will feel this in all the way in your toes, your ankles, your knees, your hips, even your belly, because your belly muscles have to activate as you're moving forward, as the body catches itself to keep itself in some kind of equilibrium. Do this one more time. When you come back from here and you're upright, just take a moment to breathe and wait for an auspicious moment to take the leg off the chair. And then when you are ready, switch sides. Step the other foot. If you came with me on the same side, you would be on your left foot now onto the chair. Notice if there are side-to-side differences, it's quite likely you have one dominant leg, so one side may feel a little bit less balanced. So give yourself the pleasure of a wall to hang on to, or you could even have a walking stick in one hand as you begin to make that same pivoting forward and back motion on this side. Now I've been showing this in one particular way, but there are variations of this that you can do that create more or less range of motion. So you could have that forward leg on the ground, for example, and have a little bit less compression in the hip joint. But you could also have your legs farther apart. I'm not asking you to do that right now. I'm going to show it, but only to show it. I don't want you to change your rhythm, but you could be way back here and have your leg on the chair. And you can see where that would create a much larger range of motion, especially in the forward leg, because you can now straighten that leg. So if at some point you want to try it this way, you could. Again, I'm just trying to teach you principles at this point so you can have your own practice. And then take one more round and take a beat before you take the leg off the chair. A lot of unbalancing happens when we strive for the goal rather than paying attention to the process. So it's often in the transition into or out of a shape or a movement that things happen because we drop our mindfulness. So hover here for a moment or be here for a moment, feel into the strength of your standing leg, and then remove the leg, and you won't lose your balance, or you won't be as likely to lose your balance. And then we'll end with our calf pumps. For those, you really might want a wall, right? If you remember these are always a favorite. So whenever you feel like, okay, I've moved lymph, I'm done, this could be your grand finale, right? Is your calf pumps. And you can do these seated as well. If by now you're too tired, you can do them from your chair like this. You could even bring the legs out to the side. That brings a little extra motion into the hip joint. If you have a little rebounder, you could do it on a rebounder. You could just bounce like this. So that's another way to do this. Yeah. And you can do a little of everything, right? The variety is the spice of life, so they say. I don't know if it's entirely true, but in this practice, it certainly brings some joy into the practice. And then if you'd like to top it off with just a little bit of jogging, you could do that. Yeah, and I love the idea of a few more arm circles there. Thank you for showing that on the screen. And just making it a really fun thing to top off the practice. But at some point, we also need to get ourselves ready for our closing meditation. So let the last few movements come out that want to come out. And then perhaps just do some gentle rocking, just like you rock a baby to sleep. Rocking motions are very calming for your nervous system. So just rock a little bit and let yourself come into your body very consciously. Maybe scanning inward to notice if physical sensations and experiences have changed in any way. Not expecting it, but also not missing it if it happened. And maybe you bring your hands to your belly and notice your breathing. You could continue to rock, or you can be very steady by now. And notice if there's a change in the experience of your vitality, your energy, a change in the rhythm of your breath. And then perhaps you take a moment to check in with your mind, to notice what is present here now, especially whether your mind state has changed, your feelings. As you slowly bring yourself into a place of quietude in body, breath, and mind. Settling into your own wisdom here on how to recalibrate yourself. As you begin to ponder in what position you would like to take your closing meditation. Perhaps making a pact with yourself that you will not skip Shavasana. It is the most important part of the practice. It's when you integrate everything you've experienced and learned. So once you've decided how you would like to place yourself for your Shavasana, find your way there, whether it's a seat on the ground or a seat on a chair. Or a lying down position. But wherever you do decide to settle yourself, at the end of practice, be even more deliberate in how you nourish your body, your breath, and your mind with the supports from props, blankets. Maybe at the end of class, if you're on a chair, you lean into the chair to allow yourself to release and let go. And then very consciously invite your body to relinquish any unnecessary gripping or holding. Your body will know what you mean by that. You don't have to direct specific muscles. You're just inviting a letting go of any muscles, skeletal muscles that are not needed to hold the position that you chose for your closing meditation. As you surrender your body to the earth. And then invite your breath to release and let go, to become gentle and soft as you surrender the breath to the natural flow of life force that travels through all of us. And then invite your mind to release and let go as you surrender all your mind stuff to your deeper inner wisdom that will track what needs tracking. And deeply appreciate your inner wisdom, the seed of joy that lies within you, as you settle into about a minute of silence until my voice brings you back. very gently begin to reawaken your senses to the outer and inner world. Perhaps noticing the sounds around you, the sounds within you, the gurgling of a stomach, the beating of a heart. Perhaps you notice the aroma in your room. The fragrance that surrounds you or within you. Perhaps you sense into the vitality inside of you, the rhythm of your breath, the gentle pulsation of life that moves through you. If you're lying on the earth, perhaps you begin to ponder a pathway to a seat if you'd like to close the practice in a seat, knowing, of course, that you can always close the practice lying down at your own pace, in your own way. And when we have all arrived in a seat together, perhaps you bow your head to your heart. To take a moment to tune in yet again. This time to notice if there is a takeaway from your practice today. Something meaningful, something interesting, something important that may have emerged for you. Perhaps this takeaway blends with your intention that you set at the beginning of practice to create a dedication of your time on the mat today. Something meaningful, something worthwhile bringing into your daily life. If such a dedication emerged for you, you might choose to use your inhalation to breathe it into all layers of your being, nourishing your body, your breath, your mind, your wisdom, your joy. And then you might use your exhalation to send that dedication silently outward, nourishing your community as well as the greater web of life. Thank you all so much for being part of this practice today. It's a joy and an honor to come together every Thursday morning with this beautiful community.